Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. I'm Jason Abrams, and this is the place where we lift the curtain on the world of real estate like never before. Every week, I sit down with visionaries, pirates, and mavericks. We're here to document, demonstrate, and most importantly, demystify their game-changing models and systems. What secrets propel them to the top? And how are they living their dreams? This is about passion, it's about strategy, but above all, it's about real, tangible success. So buckle up and let's dive in. This is the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. You ever go to the ice cream shop and not knowing what you want, and they just give you those little spoonfuls of deliciousness? That's what you're about to get today, friends. We are not unpacking one model. We are unpacking three models. We're going to tell you exactly how to do golden letters, exactly how to get agent-to-agent referrals, and exactly how to use social media on a platform I bet you're not using, and in a way I bet you're not doing it. We're doing it with none other than Josh Anderson. Josh has been in the business for 19 years. He hails from Nashville, Tennessee, and that team is a perennial $100 million team. Sit back and buckle up. This is Josh Anderson. Josh Anderson, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
It is an honor to have you. I love what you all are doing, and we're going to be unpacking three different models. This is going to be an incredible broadcast, but before we do, I want to ask you the question that I ask everybody. Josh, how did you end up in the greatest industry in the world?
I'm originally from Nashville, grew up in Louisiana, went to LSU. I studied international trade and finance, which was an economics background.
So, okay, stop the tape. It makes you sound much smarter than the...
I just want to... smart.
Yeah.
I got like 70 extra IQ. That's right. Yeah.
So, dude, you're a million miles away from international finance in Louisiana.
Kind of, but it's an economics background. And you know what? Like everything we do in real estate is supply and demand. And if you break it down to the very basics, it's just supply and demand. And that's not all real estate is by any means, but I never realized that simple model would play so much into what we do. So I graduated from LSU with an economics and a finance background, worked at an investment bank, and then worked at a private client asset firm. So, when you're 21 or 22 years old, you create a story in your head about how sexy and amazing what you're about to do for the rest of your life is going to be. And I literally called my mom every single day. And I was like, I'm miserable. I don't know what I want to do with my life. And I remember after probably the 50th time I called her, she said, well, you know what? You might have to do a bunch of things you don't want to do to find out what you do want to do. And so in the meantime, I was like, oh, I'm going to get my real estate license because I want to buy.
Hang on. What didn't you like about it? Because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, you're in a high net worth office. You're only dealing with rich people. You're in an investment bank. That sounds like incredible.
I was fresh out of college and I was working in a cubicle doing research. And if anybody on this that happens to listen to this knows me, while I can do research, I'm the sales guy. I'm the relationship guy. I want to shake hands and kiss babies and do all the things. And so the investment bank wasn't that bad. I moved on to a private client asset firm and I literally had a desk in the back office. And there were multiple days a week, I just shifted stuff around on my desk. I think the big thing was, and this is probably a big struggle in real estate is, I wasn't being mentored. I wasn't being challenged. I wasn't really learning anything. So, at the end of the day, it was kind of tough. And I think I feel that way about a lot of people that get into real estate is they get lost in the shuffle. They don't find a mentor. So I ended up getting my real estate license while I was still working at the private client asset firm. One day came in, put in my 2 weeks, and literally did not know what I was signing up for. But I had a friend at Keller Williams. So I joined Keller Williams. People always ask me how you've been with Keller Williams for 19 years. And yeah, I just started and I love it. And so it's one of those things that I did the basics really well, but I had $5,000 to my name. And I refused to ask my dad for money. So I made it work.
Do you have success right off the bat?
It was interesting. So I sold my first house in 3.5 months, and then I sold the next house like 2 weeks later. I ended up selling 23 houses for $3.4 million. So to give you an idea of what that would be in Nashville now, that would be probably, 18 to 20 million in volume on our average price point in today's world. So 3.4 million for 23 transactions. And I didn't get rookie of the year, so I'm still a little sour about that.
Well, at some point during that journey, somebody gives you a copy of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book.
Yeah.
And for those of you that are new to the show, that was a book that was written by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan and Dave Jenks, may he rest in peace, which is the namesake for our show. What was it about that book that changed your life?
What's interesting about that book is probably the first 10 times I read it, every time I read the book, something different smacked me across the face because I was in a different need in my business. And so the first time I read it, I read multiple chapters, but I would skip over things like the budget model or, the economic model because I didn't know what I didn't know. I wasn't really building a business my first year in the business. I was just trying to figure things out. So I was, looking back, I did a really great job, primarily because I didn't have money. I did a really great job of writing handwritten notes every week, 20 of them every single week. I did a really good job because I didn't have any clients and I had the time to take care of it. And everybody now, you've got Command, for example. My first CRM was an Excel sheet. It was literally name, phone number, email address, and a note section.
Man, so you said something that I'm not going to let get away. You said the first 10 times I read it.
Yeah.
Dude, how many times have you read that book?
I've probably fully read the book 10 or 12 times because early on, Gary said, if you read it 3 times, you're in 3rd grade. If you read it 5 times, you're in 5th grade. Same thing with Recruit Select, So I took that to heart. But literally every time I read it, something different. I was like, this was not in the book the last time I read it. Knowing good and well it was in the book. I just skimmed over it because it didn't matter to me at the time. That's the really cool part about a book like that. It's more, I wouldn't even say it's a book. It's more of a manual, right? And you go back to it when you need help. And there's other books out there, but that's the real estate Bible, right?
I want to unpack the models that are driving the success of the organization. You all are a perennial $100 million producing team. And we focused on, when we were doing our pre-interview, 3 lead generation levers. We have golden letters, agent-to-agent referrals, and then social media in a way that I don't think our fans have heard before. So, friends, you know what time it is. This is the time when we start unpacking models. You don't have to take the notes. I'm taking the notes. Josh is doing the teaching. If you don't get the notes, go to MREAnotes.com, put in your email address. They come out every Thursday. Josh, let's start with golden letters. Why did you start it? How do we do it? Tell us exactly how to make it work.
Yeah. Why did we start doing it? So golden letters were a thing that we all probably kind of heard about. And over the last, 5 or 6 years, whatever it is. And we did them off and on a little bit. Over the last couple of years, Nashville is a very popular area. A lot of people are relocating. It's a very bizarre and somewhat difficult to understand market. If you look at Nashville as a whole, it's still a seller's market. Most areas have less than 4 months worth of inventory. But when you start drilling down to the zip code and you start drilling down to neighborhood level, man, there's some ultra buyer markets and ultra seller markets. Less than 6 weeks of inventory or even a month of inventory. And so we have all these buyers that were like, man, we've seen everything on the market. It's just garbage for what it is. It's just okay. And so when one of our buyers can tell us very specifically, I want to be in one of these 3 neighborhoods, we can easily send out those golden letters. And when somebody says, hey, I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Davidson County, which is 30 or 50, 100,000 houses, it doesn't work. But when somebody knows, I want to be in this school district and I want to be in this particular area, it's pretty simple. And we've got 2 or 3 different types of golden letters, and I can certainly send those to you if you want to attach them to the notes.
Well, talk me through them. So number 1, it's about having a buyer that knows exactly which neighborhood they want to live in.
Correct.
Number 2, I now have to get the data in order to send out to that neighborhood.
Correct.
How'd you do that?
It's as simple as tax records. And so most everybody that has an MLS has some kind of access to property information, property tax records. We always have about 5 interns in our office that work at the local schools that need college credit and think they want to get into real estate maybe. And so they do an internship with us and we put them to work. And the interesting part about the internship is, they watch Owning Manhattan and HGTV just like everybody else. And we show them the back end. Hey, not all of it's sexy. Like some of the stuff is not going to be what you think it is. And we put them to work as simple as, open house signs but they do golden letters.
Do you think you should be showing them my show? It was called Scoring the Deal, Josh. Many people thought it was the best show ever made. Do they watch that one?
Between that and Nick Waldner's.
Well, what you won't find is Nick's still available on Hulu. Friends, Scoring the Deal is still available on Hulu. It's the paid subscription because we don't give that show away for free, but go check it out.
Royalties.
So once I get the buyer who knows exactly the neighborhood they want, then I get the data. Now it's time for me to send the letter. You said that there are 3 different messages. What's important about them? What are the messages?
Yeah, we want to tell the story of the family, right? Who are they? Where'd they come from? A picture of them. Here's why they want to be here. Here's why they love your neighborhood and your home. I think realtors, and I'm not saying I'm the greatest at it, but one of the things we're working on with our social media at a super high level is storytelling. And I don't think realtors do a good job of storytelling. And I think that golden letter is exactly about storytelling. Who are they down to? Do they have 2 golden retrievers and their dogs are named, Gumbo is whatever it is. It's getting really granular on who they are, why they want to be in the neighborhood and why it would be a good fit. And by the way, if you're reading this and you're interested in selling, here's my contact information. And if you're not interested in selling, do you know any neighbors that might be interested in selling?
That's so good. By the way, friends, if you want to master storytelling, go back and listen to the episode we did with Brittany Hodak. She literally wrote the book on how to create raving fans via stories. So I think
she also lives in Nashville.
So number 1 from messaging is tell the story about the family. Is there another type of messaging or are you just doing that multiple ways?
Just multiple ways. That is the letter, is the story of who they are. And, we just have different verbiage for different ones. And so, look, if you're not good at storytelling, put the general idea of who the clients are, drop it in ChatGPT and go for it. Like as we've honed our different ones, that's ultimately what we did. And then we went in and played around with it some more. And our ChatGPT knows our brand so well and knows how I speak. And you just go in and play around with it.
All right, well, let's talk math on this because whenever I talk golden letters, I want to get some semblance of, am I doing this right? Am I doing it wrong? Am I having a different result? So how many of these letters do you have to send in order to generate some active phone calls coming in?
So I've got one really good example for you. So we get, for every 100 that we send out over the probably 5 to 10,000 that we've sent out. I'd have to pull exact numbers. For every 100, we're getting about 3 phone calls, 3 real deal good conversations. And that might change, in a neighborhood that turns over a little bit more often than others, we might get 6 or 7. In super desirable neighborhoods, we might get on average 1.5 or 2.
So when they call and they say, hey, I got your letter. I was really touched by the story about Billy and his Labrador. We love this. What do you say? What happens next? What's the process?
They call me and they say, hey, I got a letter in the mail. Sometimes it's a text message. Hey, I got a letter in the mail. And I say, yeah, we sent out a letter. We've got a client that's looking in, what's your address? And then we have a full-on conversation and say, you picked up the phone and you were compelled to call me. So are you thinking about selling your house? And they're like, well, we're still 6 months out. We had one a couple months ago. We've got a senior, we got to get him graduated and figure it out. But we are going to downsize. We might move to Florida, whatever it is, right? I mean, it's just a normal conversation. Ask questions, dig deep, figure out, do they have a number in mind? Will they let me come over and do a walkthrough if it's an out-of-town client? Can I do video? So my example for you is a girl named Leslie. So Leslie lives in one of the most desirable neighborhoods in Brentwood, which is the suburb just south of Nashville. Best schools in the state, blah, 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 all the things. So she texts me, I got this letter in the mail. Is this for real? Because a lot of people will say, are you just trying to pick up listings? And I have another story about a guy that was he wore me out. He was like, this is complete BS, blah, blah, blah. Finally, he was like, man, if you're serious, this has got to be one of the best marketing campaigns that I've ever seen. He was like, I helped do funnels in the automotive industry, and I've never seen something this clever. And I was just like, a simple 50-cent letter, just anyway. So back to Leslie. We get to Leslie's texting. We're texting back and forth. And I said, Leslie, can I come over one day and just take some pictures? My clients live about 40 minutes away. They don't want to just come in. Like, can I just send some video? And she said, yeah, like whatever. So I go over. I don't really do a listing appointment with her. I just kind of have a 30-minute conversation, take some video, and then I send it to my client. My client says, it's too modern for me. We're not interested in that one. Okay, great. I check in with Leslie. Hey, do you have a timeline for when you are going to do something? She goes, anytime between now and like the next year. I go, okay. So I'm trying to rack my brain, like, who else can I sell this to? She texts me one day and says, hey, can we go look at some properties? And so I go, yeah, sure. Got her. It's hooked, right? And so this is the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is, can I get a sell buy out of this? And honestly, we had a buyer for this. It just wasn't the house for them. And we're still working with those people. So Leslie is closing this coming week on the 30th. Buy sells a total of over $3 million.
Oh, yeah.
From a less than $1 letter.
It's a no-brainer. I mean, the reality of it is you're solving the problem of the marketplace, which is, I don't like what's on the market. And in that moment, it's either, well, our only option is to sit and wait and hope somebody lists something, or it's, well, let's actually go try to beat the rug to find a property this person will like. That's the extra mile, Josh.
So that's the whole thing that we talk about is, how do we be ultra proactive in this market versus reactive? And 99% of agents are reactive to the market. And we're just saying, we're meeting at our team meeting every Wednesday at 1:00 going, all right, what's going on? What are you struggling with? How can we be more proactive? What can we do to get out in front of this? And so even if I sent out 10,000 letters, which we haven't yet, but even if I sent out 10,000 letters, that would be at $1 a letter. That's $10,000. I'm still making $9 for every dollar that I just spent. So it's a $90,000+ commission to the team. And so Gary always says, if you can get $3 or $4 per dollar spent, you're doing really well.
Spot on. All commissions are negotiable, friends. Go do your own math, but that is absolutely spot on. When I think of what you're saying, I'm thinking of a line. And on one side, it says active buyer's agent. On the other side, it says passive buyer's agent. And on passive, it's I set up an MLS search and I wait and I sit and I hope for the best. And either my client calls me because they saw a property on a website that rhymes with Billo, or they saw some email that I sent them.
Yeah.
But now you're living on active, which is I'm doing both of those things, but I'm sending letters. We're working in the neighborhood at open houses. We're knocking on, we're doing anything we need to do to find someone real estate to buy.
Well, and I think the thing about it, at least for probably most markets in Nashville, man, it's been a tougher last couple of years and I think everybody's feeling it. And it's a weird market. It's hard to decipher. It's hard to have a conversation around, especially if you don't really know the numbers and the stats. And so I would just say for anybody listening, like, you're going to have to get more uncomfortable and do more lead gen and get more proactive than you've ever done. Like, I've been doing this for 19 years. Everybody says 2008 through 2012 was the toughest market in the history of markets. No, it's not. 2024 and 2025 is the strongest, weirdest, most bizarre market that I've ever been in. And that might be because in 2008, my business was growing 25 to 50%. I got in the business in 2006, and maybe I didn't have any overhead, and maybe I didn't know any better, and maybe I was ignorant. But in today's world, this market's way harder. So kudos to anybody that's getting in the market and actually, getting deals closed, especially if you're newer in the business. You got to grind it out and do, because this market, it's not for the faint of the heart. It's not what you see on HGTV. It's crazy. Everybody's crazy right now. Buyers, sellers, the vendors, it's just crazy.
Even the buyers on HGTV these days look weird to me. I watched one the other day and they're like, well, we work part-time. We raise salamanders. And they were like, what's your price range? She was like, $3.5 million. And I was like, I don't even know what a salamander is. It's unbelievable. Okay, let's switch gears. That's golden letters. Love it.
Yeah.
Teach me exactly how to get agent to agent referrals.
Yeah. So this is something that I guess I kind of started very early on when I got in the business and didn't even realize it for a while, because there's this tailwind. It doesn't show up for a while. And so we close at least 50 deals a year for the last 10 years from agent referrals. So, and not to like throw out numbers or toot my own horn, but like this is responsible for at least $1 million in GCI every year.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. And so I say that to say it might be worth your time if you're listening to like think about this in some capacity. How do you get agent referrals? This kind of started with the idea that I was going to conferences, shaking hands, meeting people, adding them to my agent out of state newsletter. So, how like a lot of people just throw everybody on one newsletter. We're very careful that we have an agent newsletter and we have a local newsletter. And our agent out of state newsletter, it has stuff about Nashville, but it also has playbooks. So if anybody wants to get on my newsletter, you can email me or find me on social media, whatever you want to do. But it has a playbook for everything we do. Client events, different types of client events, our agent referrals. I mean, it's got everything. So we just have a one pager, of playbooks. And I think for anybody that's newer that doesn't have a system around something, go do that. But, this just started with like going to conferences and meeting people. And it evolved into like somebody asked me to teach, on a Zoom or come in person and teach a class. And then it's just like people call me and say, hey, man, I know you did that showing agent model at a really high level. Like I'm working on it and I can't figure it out in my market. Can you spend 15 or 30 minutes with me? And so it's how can you give back to the agent community? And I do truly believe in karma and like, I think the coolest part about Keller Williams, there's a lot of cool parts about Keller Williams. One of the coolest things consistently for the 19 years I've been in the business is I can pick up the phone and call anybody inside of Keller Williams and they're willing to share all their information with me. It's the same way in Gary's mastermind group. Like I can pick up the phone and say, hey, can I come shadow you? Can I do this? Can I do that? Can you help me with this? Can you connect me with this person? It happens 100 times out of 100.
Well, people are going to say that we didn't give them a real model, quote unquote, because of the simplicity of this. But friends, it's 3 steps. Josh and I were talking about it. Number 1, you're going to have to meet agents. And you're going to want to meet agents outside of the market. And fight it as you may, the easiest place to do that is at real estate conferences. And I can speak for myself. We have Mega Agent Camp coming up in a couple of months, and we'll have 10 to 15,000 people who are crazy about this show that want to go watch this sort of thing live. Those are the kind of folks you want to meet. Number 2, once you meet the agents, you got to get their info.
It's just like a 36 touch, right?
That's it. And that's the next piece, which is provide value. Josh, you're providing it in the way of a monthly newsletter that says, we're Nashville, make no mistake about it, and here's value that you can go use in your real estate businesses.
Yep.
That's what I think the magic sauce for you is.
We used to have other stuff in it, and it's just like we kind of peeled it back one year and just said, what do agents around the country, like what would they like to know? They don't care about what we just listed. Unless it's just an unbelievably amazing house, you're not ever going to see listings in our newsletter. Not for agents, because it doesn't matter. Most people don't know my ultra local market or my hyper local market. And what else can I add value? Like I'm either going to give you a great podcast that I just listened to, or a playbook that we use in our business on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, or it's going to be like an app that we use, like something that's helped us truly in our business.
I think it's brilliant. Then send it out and then spend the time.
Yeah.
Now the referral comes in. Is there anything special you do when you're taking care of another real estate agent's clients to keep them in the loop?
Yeah, we have 5 touch points throughout the process, and we just try to make it super simple. Hey, we made contact with them. Hey, we're showing them houses. Hey, we're under contract. Hey, it's closing week. Oh, hey, it's closing day and you're getting your referral check in the next week.
I think that's so smart.
Does anybody care about anything more than that? Because they can also on their side check in with their friends or clients.
That's it. We've made contact. We're showing houses. We're under contract. Closing is coming up. We've closed.
Yeah.
It's genius. Okay. You also are crushing it on social media. And friends, we've done 1 million episodes around video and YouTube and how people are using Facebook. But this is the first time that we're going to touch on a model specific to LinkedIn. Josh, why LinkedIn? Is it because you're middle-aged?
Yeah. So yes. And the people that are my age, that are professors at all these universities around Nashville, Vanderbilt, Belmont, Lipscomb, they're all in their 40s. All these kids that are now 18 to 22 are now hardcore on LinkedIn because
Really?
their professors are telling them to get on LinkedIn because that's where you network to go find jobs and blah, blah, blah. And so it's interesting. The people in between, like between 25 or 27 and like 35, don't use LinkedIn, but the younger crowd and the older crowd do.
Dude, I never really thought of LinkedIn as social media. Like, because when I was growing up, LinkedIn was a place where you put your professional certifications, and it was just a place for people to get info about you. But it is turning into a significant social media platform.
It's got to be, besides what I told you earlier on Pinterest, I think it's got to be the most untapped social platform out there by far, not even close. I mean, it is so interesting. If you went and polled 100 agents and said, who is your ideal client? I guarantee you their ideal client is actually on LinkedIn, and they're not on LinkedIn.
That's so big, man, because they're going to be executives. There's going to be lawyers, going to be accountants. There's going to be
financial advisors,
professionals, financial advisors. It's so smart.
So in Nashville, it's business managers for the country stars, the football players, the Preds players. It's the financial advisors. It's the CPAs, the tax strategists. It's the executives, the small business owners. Like my ideal client, typically most people's ideal client, unless you're brand new in the industry, even if you are brand new in the industry. When I was brand new in the industry, you know, my ideal client was?
Anyone who would buy a house?
Anyone would buy a home, but also like first time home buyer, because I just bought a home and I was like, I just went through this process. So I didn't feel good working with a 48-year-old at the time when I was 27. So it evolves over time. But like my ideal client is essentially me and my family. They make 500 plus thousand a year. They're a family of 4 to 6. They've got kids somewhere, you know, between 3 and 5 and 15, or maybe they're out of the house. They're an executive. They're a business owner. They're a financial advisor, and they have the ability to refer back and forth. Some of my best clients are probate attorneys and financial advisors. You know where they hang out the most? LinkedIn.
So what do you do on LinkedIn? What's the model?
I'm going to go back to golden letters. You storytell at a really high level. And so when you storytell on LinkedIn, for anybody that's listening to this, I would just say, go find me on LinkedIn and go read several of my posts. So we do a lot of swag, right? We do really nice clothes and stuff like Vuori and Lululemon and all the things. But we also do like, you know, branded hats that have leather logos and all these things. We do Campfire coffee mugs. We do Yeti coffee mugs, all the things. And so one of my stories on LinkedIn just 2 days ago was, had a guy get text by our VA through our CRM. So it didn't even come from my text message.
By the way, if you're going to send text messages, please do it in a TCPA friendly and compliant way like Josh does.
Yes, they did opt in. So he said, have Josh call me. And so I called him the next day and he said, hey man, I'm thinking about selling my house and I need you to do a walkthrough. So I get to his house, do the walkthrough, and he goes, you know, the funny thing is I was talking to my trust attorney about estate planning while I was drinking a coffee. And the coffee happened to be in your coffee mug. And so the whole story of the LinkedIn post is a $5 coffee mug got me back in conversation with a past client. And it's a $5 coffee mug that he's probably used. I mean, if you looked at per use, it's like 5 cents.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. So is there a specific number of posts that you try to make on a weekly basis? Like, I know you, and I know enough to know that if you're going to do something, you always build a system around it. If I'm out there and I'm going to start this tomorrow, give me some framework.
Yeah, everybody's got a different opinion on it. I do it 3 times a week, 3 to 4. And then I have friends that are financial advisors and 401k administrators that do it every single day at 7 a.m. If you were going to post on LinkedIn, it needs to be before 8 a.m. every single day. Even if you want to do it at nighttime, you can schedule the draft. But like the reason before 8 a.m. is because these are all business people. They are looking at LinkedIn first thing in the morning before they start their day. And make sure when you do your LinkedIn and people start liking it and all of those things, you got to respond to every single comment. You have to. It opens it up to more non-followers and more people. There's just all kinds of little hacks here and there that you can do on LinkedIn.
Good. We want all of them. So the first one is respond to all the comments. The second one is make sure that I post before 8 a.m. because these are professionals. They're not looking at 11 a.m. I'm going to post 3 days a week, maybe 4, but I'm going to find my own cadence.
Yep.
Am I putting a direct call to action in, or am I just assuming that if I put something valuable, they know how to reach me because they can direct
Yeah.
message me?
I don't put any hashtags. I don't do anything. Everybody's got a different opinion. It seems to be the trend of everybody that I follow on LinkedIn right now is they're not putting any emojis, no hashtags. It's not Instagram. You don't need to do all that. They can DM you. They can find you. Like, it's super simple. But in the last month that I've been doing this, my profile views have gone like through the roof. And the first one I did on this got 30,000 impressions, which, if anybody knows, 30,000 impressions on LinkedIn is like insane. It's through the roof. And it got like over 100 comments, which is unbelievable. And look, that was the first one I did. It just happened to pop off and it was really good. The next one I did only got 23 comments, which is still really amazing for LinkedIn. But follow people in your industry and then also follow people that are doing just a really good job. So the thing on LinkedIn you've got to do is figure out what your buckets are. Like, what are your buckets that are important to you in life? So for me, it's real estate, it's health, it's wealth, it's, community service, and it's family. And so I post on one of those 5 things. It pulls back to one of those 5 things all the time. So like the one I did like 3 or 4 days ago, it was basically be early in life. On time is late, late is unacceptable. And it went back to a picture of me and my 2 boys and like what I'm teaching them in life, like things that I think are super important, but also like basic things. Like, it takes 0 skill to show up on time. 0. But like, I got a ton of comments from other parents that were like, I'm teaching my daughter, just something as one lady, a realtor in Atlanta, she said, I'm teaching my daughter something as simple as smiling at a stranger. Just a smile.
So good, man.
It'll change somebody's entire day.
It's so good.
And so you start when you do all this, you start realizing like it resonates with other people at such a high level.
Here's the thing. We laid out 3 models. We laid out golden letters. We laid out agent-to-agent referrals, and we laid out LinkedIn. The mistake that people are going to make is they're not going to realize that the model doesn't need to be complicated to work. As a matter of fact, Josh, I would say one of your superpowers is simplicity.
Look, it's got to be simple enough for a 12-year-old to understand. That's what I tell my team all the time. They're just tired of hearing me say that. But here's the other piece. There's a 1-word answer. If you're going to do any of these 3 or all 3, there's 1 word that's going to make it. It's consistency. Like, consistency is today's currency in business, and you have to do whatever you're going to do. Lead gen every day. You got to do it every day for 3 or 4 hours. In today's market, I remember when I got in the business in 2006, Gary was preaching 2 hours a day. 2008 hit, you need to do 3 hours a day. We started coming out of 2012, 4 hours a day. And today, it's actually no less than 4 hours a day if you want to do lead gen and lead follow-up.
Spot on. Spot on. All right, man. I want to switch gears. I want to go back to ancient Athens. There is a philosopher named Epicurus. He built a villa, and he invites people over to sit in his garden and talk about the biggest questions of life. Will you join us in our garden?
Yes.
Excellent. We are honored to have you. You are a family man, and you are raising your kids with significantly more than you had when you were being raised. How do you keep them grounded when you can pretty much live wherever you want, go on any vacation you want, and do anything you want?
I do like to remind them that any vacations that they get to take are a byproduct of mom and dad having money, and it's not their money at all. It's important to know, like, this is like something that's kind of scares the heck out of me because I always think about it. Like, I think the reason I am the way I am is I'm the youngest of 4. I grew up on a farm, like work hard, all the things. My kids don't see me do any real work. Like, they know I go to the office, but they don't see me do manual labor like I did growing up. And so I think you have to teach them like all the things that I've heard over the years from Gary or reading a book or whatever it is. I want them to know that like, you just got to show up and work. You got to be proactive in life. It's a contact sport, all of life, business. It's all a contact sport, but you got to do the things. Like, you don't get to live off of mom and dad.
You went on a fairly significant health journey over the years.
Yeah.
What drove that? And if I'm sitting out there and I'm not in love with the way that I look or the way that I feel, what advice would you give me?
Yeah. I grew up in a really healthy family and I got into real estate And I looked up one day and realized I'm like eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner out. I'm having happy hours. And I used to work out every day. Now I work out 2 days a week. Man, it doesn't matter how much you work out. The food it's all nutrition. So COVID actually, one of the greatest things for me that came out of COVID was one of several things, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to get back in the best shape of my life. And I would say at 45, I'm just as strong as I was in college or stronger. And I'm sleeping better, everything across the board. Like I've gone so far down the sauna and the cold plunge and all the things route. But I do. Who cares how much money you make? You've got one body. You get to take care of it or you don't. I said that word consistency earlier. Consistency and compound interest applies to your body as much as it does to money.
That's a big idea, man. When you talk about diet, what's the one thing when it comes to diet?
I don't really eat any bread or pasta. Like I eat super high protein. It can be yogurts. It can be eggs. It doesn't have to be,
No pasta?
Nah, no pasta. Nah.
You ever been to Carbone? Brother, they got a vodka sauce. You can't imagine.
I'll make an exception if we go to dinner in Austin. Okay?
They put that on the side of a veal parm that's the size of your chest. It's none of that for you?
I'm boring. I stick to like the same thing that works over and over. I do it with lead generation. I do it with my health and wealth, all my stuff. Like I just try to be boring and easy or simple.
All right, last question. You have ran as well as been members of coaching groups and men's groups and mentoring groups. Why is coaching and being coached and coaching others such a big part of your life?
Because I relate everything in business to sports, and everybody around me knows that all I do is talk in sports terminology. And the greatest players all had coaches and therapists and all the things. And we all have blind spots, and we all have it's very easy to say words that matter in the moment that we don't stick to a week later. Like New Year's resolutions is a really good example. So, it's one of those things that why wouldn't you have a coach? If you care about your business, if you care about the people around you and you want something better for yourself, you have to have a coach. And for me, I've never not had a coach. Like my coaches were all MAPS coaches. And, I also believe you should change up your coaches, whether it's every 1 year, every 3 years, but you need different coaches for different, pieces of your business. Personal coaches, nutrition coaches, you should have dietitian. If you're not in the shape that you want to be in, go get a dietitian for 90 days and go hard.
Well, you're one of the handful that coach directly with Gary Keller. I mean, he's worked directly with you on your business. And I know you've learned a ton. What's the one thing that you've taken away from your time with him that you can share with us?
My default answer is Gary cares so much about us as agents and our industry. He really does care, and he really does he'll email you back exactly what he would do. I think he's just a very transparent person.
I couldn't agree more. Josh, I love what you all are doing. You're 19 years in. You seem as excited and spry and young as ever. Thank you for sharing with us, and thanks for everything you do for real estate agents.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, man.
Consistency is the currency of our business today. I almost want to just end the show just saying that, but that is spot on. I think what he said is genius. It isn't about what you do. It's about, number one, making sure that it's simple enough for a 12-year-old to do it, and then doing it with consistency over time. And that's the key. And I don't care whether you're talking about the way he does LinkedIn, which is plastering it 3 times a week with stories that matter before 8 a.m., or doing agent-to-agent referrals, which is the easiest one, which is I go places, I meet real estate agents, I then put them on my newsletter when they're outside of my market, and I only do 2 things. Remind them I'm from Nashville, and then send them value that they can put into your business. Or even golden letters. Find a buyer who knows what they want, get the data in the neighborhood, send the message and include a story in it, and then sit back and take the calls. Friends, if you knew you were going to get 3 calls for every 100 letters you sent out, you'd send the letters. That's what Josh knows. See, the reason we had to do 3 models was because none of them are more than 4 steps, but it's in that moment that you realize why Josh has been that successful for 19 years. Go forth and do likewise. There it is. That wraps another episode. Friends, I don't know what you're taking out of this. I really don't. I'll tell you what I want you to be taking out of it, which is these are the people that are having tremendously big lives. And the reason it's happening is because they're setting up the models and systems to do just that. Gary Keller told me that leadership is teaching people how to think so that they do the things they need to do when they need to do them, so that ultimately they get the things they want when they want to have them. And that's what I want for you. You're all leaders, but it begins with leading ourselves. If you're enjoying this podcast, I want you to click the subscribe button anywhere that you get your podcasts. We want to be the voice in your head every single week, and every week we're dropping new content. We also send out a newsletter at the conclusion of every show to make sure that you get the highest points in the models and systems that were discussed. So if you want to sign up, I need your name and your email address. Head over to the millionaireagentpodcast.com. millionaireagentpodcast.com. Enter your name and your email address, and every week that newsletter will be in your box. Friends, you just went on a journey. I hope that what happens between now and the next time we meet is absolutely wonderful for you. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not Keller Williams Realty LLC and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information. Warning: you must comply with the TCPA and any other federal, state, or local laws, including for B2B calls and texts. Never call or text a number on any do not call list, and do not use an autodialer or artificial voice or pre-recorded messages without proper consent. Contact your attorney to ensure your compliance. Any text or materials generated by artificial intelligence, AI, should be reviewed for accuracy and reliability, as there may be errors, omissions, or inaccuracies.